we've talked a ton about Jason Robertson, trade rumors, everything that goes around him. So I'm going to leave this pretty open ended for you. What do you think, and where do you stand currently on Jason Robertson, where he's on his contract, trade rumors, everything about it?
I mean, he's such a terrific player, and it's so weird to think about one of the guys that clearly wasn't the problem offensively in the playoffs all of a sudden being put out there in trade talk as it seemingly has been since I remember hearing stuff during the Stanley Cup final about Robertson potentially being dangled out there. But I think it's sort of the same deal as Minnesota had been going through with Marco Rossi, in the sense of, like, if you don't want to commit long term to the player at the price point that he could probably get on the open market, then you do have to kind of do your due diligence and explore what might be out there. And in particular, if you're Dallas, I mean, if what might be out there is a talent for talent trade that could, bolster another part of your team, then you got to explore it. It's hard for me to really say, like, how vigorous the shopping is, or what the probability is that he won't be on the roster come next season. But given where his contract status is, and given what they might think about him, and in totality, I mean, he's an incredibly gifted offensive player who I think can have a lot of inconsistency creep into his game in different places. I don't blame him for poking around.
I'm assuming Owen's going to want to ask a DLLS Stars question, so I'll make sure he gets to do that, since he.
Go ahead, Luds. I got lots.
No, you got a tattoo of the Stars on your ass, so it doesn't matter. I'll do it. What I want to know here's the scoop that I'd like to have.
I'm not showing you, Luds.
Is this draft going back to the format from last year, or is it going to be the real draft?
It's going back to the format from this year. Like, the GMs and the teams, from everybody I've talked to, there's not been a formal announcement yet, but it seems like there's an incredible amount of support for it to be decentralized again. Now, I mentioned the GMs. I should say I don't necessarily know how much of this is coming from the GMs. I heard Bill Armstrong of the Utah Mammoth speak the other day, and he said that the decision to do decentralized again was one the team was making. That doesn't mean he's making it. And I think the thing for the league right now is that the teams saw how much they spend to normally do the traditional draft in sending their GMs and their AGMs and their scouts and their PR staff and their social media staff and all these people on the road, and then put them up in hotels in, like, Los Angeles, and how much that costs versus how much it costs to just do this whole thing in their practice facility. And the cost difference is enormous. So as much as it wasn't great for us in the media, for the viewers at home, although I'm sure they'll change the way they do the presentation of the picks next season in a pretty dramatic way, the teams ultimately save so much money that I think that they're going to want to do it again in that format.
So, okay, couple things.
I knew
First, I want to have you tell this idea that you had, because Luds, I think, might disagree, but I want this interaction. So you had a great idea. I truly believe this. This is not placating to you, Greg, at all, about how to award the Lady Byng, because it's an award that feels like it gets cast aside. And I think it's a really interesting one. So if you would share it with everyone, and then I want Luds to react, because I brought this up when you did this. I think it was a couple weeks ago now. But Lady Byng Award, how would you make it better?
Well, it's an award for gentlemanly play, and the writers write about it or vote on it, and we are the antithesis of gentlemanly. We should not have anything to do with this award. It's a stupid idea. I would have the on ice officials determine who wins the Lady Byng, and if not them, then a combination of maybe the players in the league and the on ice officials. I just think that if you want to know who is the most gentlemanly player, it's probably the people that interact with these players on a game by game basis. The writers currently look at penalty minutes and points. That's all we look at when we determine the Lady Byng. I think the on ice officials could do a much better job.
Luds?
I just can't even stand the word gentlemanly play. I mean, if there's 750 players in the NHL, If there's 750 players in the NHL, they could probably give 700 of them the award. That's what I think of the gentlemanly play and the way the league is played right now. You know what? I think it would. I can't believe half the guys would just not say no. I don't want it. To be honest with you, I mean, does anybody have a bonus in their contract for the Bing Trophy?
I can't imagine they do. I mean, it could be just a general NHL awards type deal. I don't know, but I get what you're saying. I mean, I remember back in the day, I think either Stan Mikita or Bobby Hull won the lady. I think it was Mikita won the Lady Bing, and he's just like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And I get that, but I mean, I'm sure there's probably if the year Slavin won it for Carolina, like the idea that you're a defenseman who's able to be as good as a guy like Slavin, and then not take a ton of penalty minutes, like if you want to frame that as gentlemanly play, then I think that's kind of a worthy award to receive. But ultimately, like I said, I mean, it's usually just like lowest penalty minutes, most points, and it just kind of renders the award pointless. And maybe the existence of an award for gentlemanly play in 2025 already renders it pointless, but we certainly shouldn't be the ones voting on it.
Hey, Luds, if they changed the description of it to the most disciplined player versus the most gentlemanly, do you think that would be a less negative connotation for the players?
I still know what it means. I don't care what you want to call it. And I know you have probably 4 of those for broadcasting in some kind of form for radio network.
Hey, I don't take offensive zone penalties on this show, Luds.
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
So my other one, and then we'll let Sam ask the last one because I know we don't have Greg for too much time. I've been going through, because I know how to party, the CBA Memorandum of Understanding, as I know you have as well. And one of the things that stood out to me, which makes no sense, is the half-hearted e-bug, emergency backup goalie alterations, because they made the rule so that now you can't have an e-bug play for both teams. It has to be your team only. I get that.
Right.
I understand why that's the case. The fact that a guy could come into the game for either team was inherently weird. But then there's all these limitations about they must not have played an NHL game on a standard player contract, less than 80 pro games, haven't played pro in the last 3 years. So it's basically Sam and I qualify, and I think you do too, and we could play. So for all the talk that they've made about how the e-bug and this professional league where points matter and there's a lot of money and prestige on the line, it's still the Zamboni driver. They just can't play for both teams. Why?
But it's not, though. I mean, like, teams are now able to designate somebody every game, and they can pick and choose, and it's not going to be a situation where it's the Zamboni driver and he could play for either team. I mean, I think the point of it is to try to make it more refined, to make it a little bit more predictable, rather than having some rando play goal for either team in an emergency situation. To your point, like it should just be like a third string goalie. I mean, like the NFL, you've got three quarterbacks in the roster at all times, and in cases of emergency, and they should probably do the same thing with goalies. But that's probably that creates a much deeper and more nuanced conversation about roster size and adding a player and what will you give us back for that NHLPA, than simply just being like, your videographer can play goal if he knows how to. It's like,
right. Well, I mean, I guess for me, I would think
combo.
that the 4A guy, the really good veteran AHL journeyman goalie, or the career backup in the NHL that maybe couldn't keep going, those kind of guys that maybe are out of a job could now have a, pretty decent paying career still, or, for a couple more years, and be that practice goalie in the e-bug.
Yeah, but I mean, like, listen, I think what they're trying to guard against is like the Panthers are playing whoever, and whoever's e-bug is the Zamboni driver, and the Panthers e-bug is Roberto Luongo. Like, it's like there is a certain amount of like quality control that I think the NHL wants to put on this thing, insofar as like not having it be a disparity. All of a sudden, Dominic Hasek retires, and the next year he just so happens to be a head of catering for the Detroit Red Wings, and if they need him, he's there. So like,
but food would be great.
I get it from that perspective. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to do one more for you, Greg. I have a
Yep.
bunch for you, but I know I wanted to get at least one from our fans. So, from one of our diehards, they asked, what is the national media's perspective on Wyatt Johnston, and why is it so hard for ESPN to pronounce his name correctly?
I mean, listen, I definitely wrote Johnson a few times when he was a rookie.
So did Pete DeBoer.
Really, yeah, and I feel terrible about that because it's not like there isn't a Chris Johnston who's a friend of mine who's like in the media. I should probably understand that there are guys named Johnston. I listen. I think he's a terrific player. I don't know what the hell happened to him in the playoffs. Like, have we even? Was that a situation where like injury news came out about that cat after the season or whatever? Because like the change in production for him was startling year over year. So I think he's terrific. He's clearly an extremely important player for the franchise going forward. I love his offensive game. I love the tenacity in his game. I love the fact that he learned at the foot of Joe Pavelski when he was there on how to be that type of player. But the last postseason was a little disconcerting because if there was one thing about him that we all sort of counted on, it was him stepping up and being one of the true offensive leaders in the playoffs every year he's been in this league, and it just didn't happen for him this year.
We all silly like the mayor.